Something that I wanted to ask you as well, and I'm looking there just for the correct terminology. So, clinical hypnotherapist. So, I mean, that's something I've always been fascinated by, right? And I'm very open-minded on all these kind of things. I mean, I suppose it would have to be sort of really extreme cases in the kind of field that I'm doing or something like that, you know. How would that play a role in someone who's, you know, for example, you know, there's all these sort of just get viewership type of shows on TV where, you know, they get all these overweight people in Biggest Loss. I mean, neither here nor there on any of those things, but someone like that might get into a situation where there's just so much pressure on it and they feel like they're not going, you know, that sort of extreme example I'm talking about now. Should I put myself in the spotlight? Everyone's watching me. I'm going to let everybody down, that kind of thing. Would that be an area where someone would, I guess what I'm getting at is the psychological aspect of it all. You know, you can get off hell for leather and then, you know, if you haven't got the coach or whatever, then you've done it all wrong. You've got the wrong shoes. You've hurt your legs. You've got an injury now. You've paid money for the race, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, short of going all the way to the extremes of hypnotherapy, just maybe fill in some blanks there or have some input on, you know, how we could apply those sort of tools or what people could go to, what they could do from, I guess, from an entry level up to the top end that would assist them in those sort of thought processes.
Yeah. So those things that you use there as an example are lots of limiting beliefs and excuses and reasons why we can't or shouldn't do something. And our brains are great at doing that because our brains, our subconscious mind, it wants us to survive and reproduce. Doesn't want to make us happy, doesn't want to make us achieve the goals and strive for that profound realization, self-actualization, and all of these terms. It doesn't want any of that. It wants you to live and create the next generation. And so it will throw up reasons that are going to protect us, and I'll use air quotes for that, protect us from perceived threats. And so the things that you talked about there, being in the spotlight and people looking at you when you're going to do this thing, whether it is the weight loss or if you're new to triathlon, let's use that as an example, and you're worried about what people will think, that's your brain trying to protect you from the perceived threat of other people's judgment, because we have the same circuitry in our brains and bodies that we did all those thousands of years ago when we'd be leaving the cave and there could be a saber-toothed tiger around the corner ready to pounce. But now, in the modern world, and particularly in the Western world, that's not a threat. We're not going to leave this podcast studio and get pounced on by a saber-toothed tiger. It's not what happens now, but our brain looks for these perceived threats. And when it can't find those, it latches them on to other things like other people's judgment, especially when we're doing something that's new or novel, something that we're not quite confident in yet. And it's going to throw these things into our consciousness, into our awareness to try and stop us from doing them. And so we can't consciously do anything about that. Our conscious mind, the prefrontal cortex, the bit of the brain that developed later, that is great for critical thinking, but it won't influence the subconscious. The subconscious is the operating system that's running the show. And so the only way realistically that we can tap into it is through hypnosis and by slowing our brain waves down to reduce the blood flow to the prefrontal cortex and reduce the neural activation in the thinking part of the brain, so that the subconscious is then able to open up and be more receptive to positive suggestion. And that's where we can get in and we can rewire things and we can reprogram what's going on in the subconscious and give it more positive suggestions, more better ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving, so that if and when these little roadblocks come up and these little thoughts of, ooh, I shouldn't be doing this, we've got some, what's the word I'm looking for? We've got some resources to fall back on to counteract those things and help us to push through. So it doesn't matter what level you're at, because you can tap into that. As long as you're breathing and you've got a subconscious mind, which we all have,
Yeah.
then you can tap into that for your own benefit in anything, but particularly in sport, as we're talking about in this instance.